Relationship management is the key to unlocking your destiny. During the series entitled After I Did, Pastor Wayne Powell Sr. explores the connection between the quality of our life experiences and our relationships with others.
All right, welcome back for next edition of Relationship Wednesdays After I Did. So I have my wonderful wife here, Michelle, to help co-pilot this thing with me, and so we're gonna just work through some Q&As today and next week. Again, it's the same day for us, but we're splitting them up in segments because again, we feel like short and sweet, just hitting some points just throughout the week, and keep it moving and what have you. All right. So so this is just getting started. So Michelle, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody?
I'm Michelle. I'm his wife.
Move Michael a little close to so they make sure they hear you.
I'm Michelle. I am his wife and mother of his children.
So I guess just a small talk. So we've been married how long?
It's been 23 years.
See, I knew the answer. I just wondered if you remembered.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm lying. I always do it from I guess then for 23 years, then it's age is 21.
Yes, and that's how I remember counting up for her.
Yeah, so we use our children's age to remember how long we've been married. Been married 23 years. We've been through a lot of different seasons. We've been through the infancy stages, the school stages. Now we're at the stage where our kids, our oldest, are in college now, moving from childhood to adulthood season, and navigating that process, and us navigating each other in the changes. Because again, when you first get married, a lot of times your mindset and mentality is in a different place than usually 20 years later. So understanding that we all change, we all go through our seasons of life. And one thing I learned is that in marriage is that the tricky part is, can you grow together or do you grow apart? Mm-hmm. And so one thing I realized is that, well, I heard this from Elvis a long time ago. He used this illustration about the motorcycle. Again, I've had a motorcycle before. I plan on getting another one. Michelle's, she's a little reluctant, but she has to get over her. See, that problem was in her dating days, she was hanging out with guys that was reckless on motorcycles, and now that has her reluctant. Anyway, that's the top for another day. But the whole point was with the motorcycle illustration was that if you have somebody on the back of the motorcycle with you, when you turn in the corner, they have to lean with you, or else there's a possibility of crashing the motorcycle. And a lot of times and when you get married, in every season of life or any relationship, is that you're going to go through curves. Why? Because you're changing lanes. You're going through changes. So how you lean will a lot of times to decide whether the marriage can make it, or the friendship can make it, or the partnership can make it, or whatever. You got to learn how to lean together. And if you don't lean together, then it's hard to turn the corners. And again, in relationship context, turning the corners is, on the motorcycle, it's a lot easier, said, of course, than in a relationship context, where turning the corner, going through changes of what I wanted at 20 something may be different than what I may want at 40 something. And a lot of times we're not going to be the same people as far as how I thought about things that I was in my 20s. I would be thinking about things in my 40s or my 50s. Why is that? Because we're designed to grow. We're always learning. We're always evolving. So sometimes our wants, our drives, our desires, the different things that we want can change. So now you got to know how to manage that and go through those transitions. But anyway, so welcome to the Relationship Wednesday podcast. And so we're gonna do Q&A. So we got some questions here from people. Thank you for your questions, by the way. We really appreciate it, because again, this is one way we can help serve and help make sure that we are helping you right where you are. So, and again, just a little caveat to the questions is that because we don't know who asked the questions, and certain questions, you ask the question, but you don't always know the context and where it's coming from. So that means that we'll have to do our best to try to fill in the blank. And we may fill in the blank right, we may fill in the blank wrong, but hopefully whatever answer we give can be helpful for you in your prospective lives. All right. So here's the first question that one of the listeners sent in was, how do you handle the differences in personalities? And do you seek counseling to overcome differences? So when I'm reading this, first thing that jumps out to me is that to seek counsel, you're looking to figure out how to handle the relationship differences. So now, how do you handle differences in personality? So now we can say that, and that's so broad. That's what I'm saying. So meaning that you're talking about personalities as in attitude issues, or personalities as in vision and goals and behaviors or compatibilities. So there's so many different angles we can go here. And how do you seek counseling for that? So I'm gonna answer the first question is I'll say this, is that if the person don't fit, no amount of counseling is going to make it fit. So I had this little thing, my sisters and my kids, we had this thing where they had to teach them shapes when they were kids. And they had this little box, and you had 4 of them. You had the square, the circle, the triangle, and I think it was a star. And so one time I tried to see if I could fit that triangle inside that circle one, just to see if I could do it, and it wouldn't fit. I even tried to wiggle it around, whatever. And so my whole thing is that a lot of times you have to make sure that you fit in the context with each other. So in other words, differences can be worked through if they fit. If they don't fit, it is hard for the personalities to work through. So you want to expound anything on that or say anything towards that? Or
yeah, so basically like you said, if you don't fit together, you may seem like you can change things for a while, but if you don't fit together, later on it's going to break apart. And you can glue stuff together, but if it doesn't belong together, eventually it's going to break apart. So you definitely have to make sure you fit before you even get into a relationship.
Yeah, and so okay, so another side note to that, just this was something I would talk to people who I take through premarital counseling. So one thing about marriage is that marriage is an institution that's so unique. And let me tell you why. Because you can, in all other relationships, you can compartmentalize. Tongue twister for me. What that means is my friends are who I have because we're the same. Partners, we come together for our differences, but our differences complement one another. That's what a partner is. So in other words, for example, on the football team, everybody can't be the quarterback, but I do need a running back, I do need a lineman, and they're built and designed according to the partnership of the team. So in other words, but my friends are people who we share similar interests, we share similar goals, we share similar things that we want to do, all those type of things. Hobbies, whatever. And so that's what friends are, because we come together because we had those commonalities. But partners, we come together because of our differences. And so, and a lot of times in a marriage relationship, it's where you got to make both of those fit. Usually you have where you my partner or these are my friends. I can compartmentalize in a relationship. And usually what happens is, and this is where it gets interesting when it comes to dating. I'm just working on, so I'm digging here a little bit. So what happens is with dating, is that usually you're finding people that you have a lot of similarities. And what happens is when you're ready to, and because we made great friends don't mean that we're automatically great partners. And what happens is because the friendship is so great, Then when we decided to get married, now we move into the realm of figuring out how to be friends and partners. So now I got to navigate these two dynamic type of relationships inside of one institution of marriage. So in other words, we came together because of our similarities. We want the same things, but now in a marriage, because you know, the every day-to-day marriage relationship, what makes you stronger is your differences. It's not your similarities. If both of y'all have the same strengths and weaknesses coming to a marriage, you're going to stay weak. The point of coming to a marriage or any friendship is where, or partnership is where you have to be strong where I'm weak in order for this particular situation to work. So, and a lot of times what happens is because we haven't designed, we never figured out how to navigate it. Sometimes the thing that was my partner, because I didn't know how to navigate the partner and I'm still looking for that friend, now the partnership breaks down the relationship because I didn't know how to work with the differences and know how to celebrate the differences. I'm up here now, we become at war with each other. So for example, me, I'm an organized person by nature. Michelle, she's more creative. So I can sit there and get mad, like, why won't you just organize things? Just get it straight. And then God said, well, that's your job. That's why you're here. Michelle be like, why you can't just do everything neat? Because sometimes what I'll do is, see, I'm a big person on placement. In other words, I'll be like, well, all the socks go here. It may not be organized, but I put all the socks here. I put all the books in what area is. And so Michelle like, why don't you just make it neat? So now we up here arguing over our differences because we didn't recognize the partnership was trying to make its way to the forefront. So because I was unaware of the partnership and I'm looking for the similarities, because basically what I'm saying is, I'm like this, you should be like this. But we're common because of certain reasons, but for the marriage to work, one to put 1,000, but two to put 10. Why is that? Because the differences supports the weaknesses. And we let our weaknesses tear us down versus allowing it to strengthen us.
You also have to, when you get with a partner, you have to look at what's more important to you. Like for instance, okay, so for me, what was important is the person be faithful, saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost. Those were the most important things. They're faithful, they love me, and you know, they know how to treat me. Those things are things I won't do without. So he may have other things that I don't like or love, but that's not going to be a make or break thing. And you know, the make or break thing is he loves me, he treats me right, he's saved, he's doing the best he can to provide. That's what's important to me. So if he, you know, for me, if he doesn't always you know, make up the bed or something, okay, I could do that. You know, something like that. That's not going to be a make or break for me. If he's, you know, if he's talking on the phone or, you know, doing things like that. Or for me, I like to go out and maybe, you know, go walking and things like that. My husband's not that person. So, okay, that's not going to make me want to, you know, not be with him. Okay, so I take my dog or my son or somebody who wants to go out and go walking with me. Or go hiking or go, you know, what the things that I like to do, because he fulfills the main portions of what I need in our relationship.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. So can we talk here? So yeah, and that's really where we have to understand, you know, how to work through the differences and recognize that we're not wired the same, even though there were things that brought us together on similarities. And usually when you date first to, you know, you're looking for similarities when you date. But when you start talking about marriage and deeper level relationships, then you got to really figure out strengths and weaknesses so you can work through the partnerships. And I would say counseling could help. It may not, but at the same time, it just goes back to if you overall, if your differences complement one another and certain things fit, then the counseling could be a help to work through those. But ultimately, if it don't fit, I don't care. You can do counseling, you can pray in tongues 24 hours a day. It ain't gonna work. So that's all we have on that question. We'll move on to the next one. So we'll do one more. So you said, what's our time? 5 minutes? Mm-hmm. All right. So it says, how do you know whether you are supposed to start a relationship with a person? And so we talked about that this morning.
Right, yes.
And I said that
You said you have to know your purpose. You have to know who you are and what you want first. Because if you don't know what you want, then how do you know what you want in another person? So
yeah, because one thing I was saying is that the challenge with this question is that you never really know, because certain things are like God-given. So what I mean is that I'm gonna use marriage for example, or relationships, where some people say, well, I'm gonna use this context to make this illustration of how do you know when to start a relationship. A lot of people will look at, like a lot of guys say, I'm gonna get married. How you know when you're ready for marriage, right? They say, well, when they got all this money in the bank, or when you got this and that, these type of things in place or whatever. And so I say, well, like we were talking about this morning, I said, there are people who got all that going on, but are emotionally abusive, verbally abusive. So, and there are other people who may not have as much, but they have more fortitude and character about them, which means that you can't always look at the outward things to say that you're ready. So, and then another thing, this one thing I said that I thought was interesting. I said, when you to start a relationship with a person, first of all, you have to be clear on your purpose. First, clarity on your purpose, and then allowing your purpose to already have an impact on your life. I would say if you're ready to start a relationship on a deeper level. So, because again, what happens is, I like this illustration. So, what happens is you can end up finding the wrong people because you wasn't clear on your purpose. So, for example, if you was called to go to New York, but you end up getting on the train to go to California, meaning that the people that were on that same train were built for you. But because you was unclear on your direction, you end up meeting and hooking up with the wrong people. And it had nothing to do with the people. You started with everything to do with your lack of clarity on your direction. So it's very important for you to be clear on what you want, where you want to go, those type of things, because that will really help you decide and again, and relationships. And one thing I'll say is that when, and it says, so how do you know whether you're supposed to start a relationship with a person? And so again, goes back to purpose. That's a purpose question. And then the other thing is that when you, cause it's a grace thing. So when you know that you are clear on that and you know what you want, it's like, it'll help you. I can't say, it's like instinctive. It's like turtles when they hatch, they just know to go to the water. It's just, you'll know. And another thing is that once you've seen, and one thing I've learned is that you love fast, but trust slow. There's a difference between the two. Okay. Love fast, but trust slow. Meaning that I can love you and be kind and nice to you and be helpful, but you're not getting certain information until I'm able to see you in other seasons. So in other words, one of the other questions is that you have to be able to have a process by where you can gauge to decide whether people are trustworthy. But the problem is it takes one to know one. Meaning that you have to be trustworthy yourself to recognize another trustworthy person. But if you're shady, you can't see other trustworthy people because you can only see, you don't see the world as they are, you see the world as you are. So if you're shady, then you're going to see, only thing you'll be able to find the shady people who parade themselves as trustworthy. So the more you decide to be trustworthy, then you have to have a place where you see people in every season and watch how they respond. This is one thing I've learned. And I'll say this, and I'll let Michelle comment, then we'll move on, is this. I always, one of my gauges, I always watch how they talk about their friends that's already in their life before I choose to let you in my life. So if you're talking negative about your friends that's already in your life, it's just a matter of how you're going to do it to me. So that's already a no. Already right there. Because I remember one time, oh my God, it'll take it way back. I got to give a couple of minutes. So what happened was my mother had I'm not going to say they are because people know who they are. pastor friend, who she hooked me up to date her niece. So we talked on the phone. And man, she lit into them. I'm like, they trying to help you out, set you up, and you up there talking about them and lighting into them, just talking about like a dog, how they this and that. So, I went back to her. I said, I thank you for helping me out, but this ain't gonna work. And I said, and because the thing is, what happened was, my mother always taught me. She said, watch how people talk about leadership. That'll show you if they'll have honor in the relationship. So in other words, it's okay to disagree with leadership, but watch how they talk about leadership. And I'm like, she's ripped. I said, yeah, you a whole bunch of problems. I said, and I lied. I said, it was nice talking to you. It wasn't. It was not a good. I said, you know, and that was the last time I went back to her. I said, it's done. I said, I'm not, yeah, nope. Mm-mm. And one thing I can say about Michelle is that I'm far from perfect, but thankfully, Michelle, God's gifted with the grace of still honoring me and seeing the God in me, even though I may not be perfect.
Yes. Praise
Yeah.
God. Yes, because he is not perfect, but he's perfect for me.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
and yeah, so I know that, you know, we want the same thing also, and that's what you got to make sure you want the same thing. You can't in the first one season, you know, you're in an apartment or whatever, but you need to talk things out or whatever. You know, do you all want to stay in an apartment forever, or does do you want to eventually get a house or something? Because you can't have one wanting, to stay in an apartment and rent forever, and then the other one's desire is eventually want to get a house. Because then when that time comes, in the beginning, everything is great. You're dating, it's new, and you both are, all googly eyed. But once that starts to wear off, which it will, it wears off, and then, okay, you got to go to the next level. As he was saying, you got to turn the curve together. You got to turn together. And if, you got to want the same things in the long haul, not just in the beginning, and you got to, again, those things that are most important, because divorce shouldn't even be in your vocabulary. That shouldn't even be there. So before you say I do, you got to know that saying no is never a problem. I mean, never a word. The D word should never come up. So you got to make sure it's things in that other person that, that's what I want. So because it's going to be things like he can't stand my animals, I'm sure, but it's things he doesn't hate them, but
Right. I'm not a fan of him,
right.
but I don't hate him either.
Right.
So,
but I also
him.
knew that I'm gonna always have animals, and he finally realized we were gonna always have animals. But I also knew that they're my animals. I'm responsible for them. I can't expect, and I can't get mad at him if he doesn't want to go and take care of them and go walk them and do all the things that I do, because he didn't really want them. He just knows that that's what I do. So yeah, I get tired and have to be the one to do it all the time, but I know that was the agreement. So same thing with ministry. It's like I knew that this is what his calling was. If I didn't want to be, his partner in ministry, then we should have never gotten together. So yeah, it gets hard or whatever, and sometimes, but I'm like, well, this is the agreement we had, so we're in this together. So you have to have the same vision.
Clear on purpose.
And yeah, you got, everything isn't going to be just smooth and oh yeah, we just all want the same thing. No, you got to know that sometimes we agreed to this. So stick with your integrity and agree what you agreed to.
Yes, and I would say to close this out is that when we talk about that, I said, before you can bend, you have to know where your non-negotiables are.
Right.
But if you're not clear on purpose, you don't even know where your non-negotiables are. Mm-hmm. So you have to know what those are. So then you'll know, okay, I can give on this, I can't give on that, whatever. But you got to know what your non-negotiables are. Like, for example, I'm serving the Lord. Like that's just how it's going to go for me.
Yeah.
Right? That's non-negotiable. Now, how that may play out, we maybe can bend on some things on that, whatever. Okay, yes, I'm not really a big animal person, but at the same time, we can, as long as you're doing the bulk of the grunt work, I'm like, I said, yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying, where you have to realize that. And another thing, oh my God, so much in that. My God, man. Well, one thing I'll say is this is it's going to say a lot of times when you make the bad decisions for relationships is this. We're more aware of what we don't want than what we do want. And a lot of times that's one reason why we pick the wrong people. What I mean is we'll say, I want companionship. That means that I feel like I'm lacking something. I'm working from something I feel like I'm missing. Then that opens the door to you overlooking all the stuff that you don't really want. And you end up hooking up with people with stuff that you didn't want, all because you was trying to fulfill a need that you feel like was lacking. So in other words, these aren't my non-negotiables, but because I want companionship, I'm going to overlook these things until the new car smell wear off. The things that you felt like you can deal with, now I can't tolerate them no more. All because I went in looking for something I felt like I didn't have in the first place. So basically it created a chain reaction of me continually overlooking all my non-negotiables in the name of looking for something I felt like I didn't have. I wanted companionship to the point where, yes, this was my non-negotiable, but I'll overlook this now. But then it becomes a problem later on. So in other words, you got to be clear and know that you're loved. That's the whole thing about rooted ground in love. It calls you to process to where now I'll end up getting with people and overlooking all the stuff that's my non-negotiables and be like, okay, well, I'll go ahead, and you can't do it that way. So yeah, so we'll hit the pause button there. But anyway, we went over time. How long we went?
26.
Yeah, that's good enough. So that's enough for one sitting. We're going to hit the pause button here. And so God bless you. Have a great week. And we will see you here next Wednesday. We're going to pick up on these questions next Wednesday.
Thank you for joining Pastor Wayne Powell Sr. for this edition of Relationship Wednesday. We hope you enjoyed this episode of After I Did. Let's keep the conversation going by leaving your questions and comments in the chat. We also invite you to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you are reminded to join us next Wednesday as Pastor Wayne continues this discussion of After I Did.